Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to the Friday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national, here from the New York Metro, all over the country. Looking forward to speaking with you guys this evening. The phone number, if you want to join the conversation, 833-482-5337, 833-4Valdez. And we're going to get into a bunch of stuff tonight. You know, there's been a lot of discussion for the last couple of weeks about Trump and this evil agenda called Project 2025. Well, we've got the co-editor of Project 2025 joining us in a little bit. He's going to set the record straight. It's not as bad as you think it is. And of course, we want to talk about how Kamala Harris, and the Democrats are continually, along with Mayor Pete Buttigieg, the trampoline secretary, the transportation secretary, are consistently trying to infringe on your rights on the road. And we're going to have someone from the National Motorists Association joining us to explain exactly what's going on and what they're doing to push back. And of course, I want to wrap up the evening talking with a veteran about the race to save America. But of course, today was a big day. Bibi Netanyahu showed up at Mar-a-Lago, big warm welcome from Trump. And the big story that we've been talking about all day, let me see if I can get some news music. Right, here we go. This is breaking from like 10 hours ago. Big Mike, somebody calls a guy named Big Mike. I don't know who this guy Big Mike is, but people keep saying that he is the secret weapon of the Democrat Party. Now, I don't know Big Mike, but I do know that there's been a lot of speculation about this person. There's been a lot of speculation about Michelle Obama as well, the former First Lady, entering the race as a surprise candidate at the DNC. Well, put that to bed, because Michelle Obama and her husband, Barack Obama, former president, both endorsed Kamala Harris today. Now, this was a big deal, obviously, because a lot of people thought that this was going to be a surprise. And I'm going to let you listen to a little bit of the phone call between Barack Obama, his wife, Michelle Obama, and Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh, my goodness. Michelle, Barack, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
Now, I'm having fun with this already, because I would have imagined that Barack Obama would have done a really nice polished video, not just, some staticky type of thing where she's in the street. And I guess that's what they wanted to make it look like, this on the go. We're very busy. Everybody's out there. We're working hard to campaign. But to me, it says they didn't take this very seriously. In fact, I thought there was going to be a lot of fanfare, that there was rumor, the New York Times was spreading, that Barack Obama was going to wait. He was going to wait until the actual convention to allow the delegates and the superdelegates and whomever else was going to be involved in the, I'm going to call it a coronation, but the nomination of Kamala Harris at the DNC, to let it happen there, and then for him to, say, all right, congratulations, you earned this, you did it on your own. Obviously, because they want to have some semblance of the fact that someone voted for this person. Because as we stand here today, it seems Barack Obama has weighed in and said, hey, we're congratulating you on, on running for president, and we're endorsing you on that run. And she hasn't yet accepted any nomination, and she hasn't run in any primary. I mean, Joe Biden barely ran in a primary. So I just think it's fascinating that we have this situation upon us, but it's following the rules. It's following the party rules. Some would say that it is, skirting the system, and I would say in many ways it is. But that is, in effect, I think how politics works, right? One will skirt the system as long as there's a system to skirt, and even when there isn't, right? That's when they start with mail-in skirting, right? So we've seen this time and again, and this is where we are. I don't think anyone was going to vote for Kamala Harris ever, right? She ran for president. She did abysmally. Maybe had she run in the next election, after she'd done a full term and said, hey, look, this is what I did. But it was a losing bet for her because she's with Biden. So she's got to shed all of that. The media can try to prop her up all they want. And I guess, in my thinking, they're going to fool a small percentage, right? A small percentage of people are going to sip the Kool-Aid that she's somehow drastically different than the man that she's been serving alongside all these months. And look, that happens, right? You couldn't have two people that agree on many things, I would say, Mike Pence and Donald Trump. But I would say they're also drastically different on a number of issues. And you've heard them really clarify, and you've seen where these differences lie. I don't think we've seen those differences with Kamala Harris and Joe El Baboso Biden. I just don't think we've seen them. She hasn't really differentiated herself other than proving that her record as a California Democrat, especially in the Senate when she was a United States Senator, was, in fact, more liberal than most, right? So I think it's pretty interesting, to say the least. Anyway, Kamala Harris, in my opinion, has an uphill battle, as I think most Americans now and then, right? Think of 2020, 2022. There were a lot of Democrats that were running away from the connection that they had between the Democrats and defunding the police. So they started to try to make it seem as if it was just AOC and her band of merry misfits, right? The squad. Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar. Who's the other one with the haircut like mine? I'm forgetting her name. Forgive me. Ayanna Pressley. Thank you in the control room. And there's the new one, Jamal Bowman, and Cori Bush. Right? I think that's all of them. So this is bigger than them. There were many Democrats, including Kamala Harris. And in a little bit, probably about 25, 30 minutes, I'm going to play a clip for you, just in case you don't remember her actually supporting that whole defund the police movement and creating bail funds and promoting bail funds, I should say, to get these people out of jail when they're burning, looting, murdering, etc. So we got a lot to discuss tonight. I want you to join the conversation. Of course, I'm taking calls probably, like I said, in about 30 minutes or so. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337. Don't move a muscle. Keep it locked right here. I'm Rich Valdez, and we're coming right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Some kind words from the great one, Mark Levin there, one of my radio mentors. And I want to announce quickly, and I'll do it again on Monday, but as of Monday, we will be on 890 WLS in Chicago. This station's 100 years old this year. So big shout out to WLS. Anybody who's streaming right now, listening from Chicago, that's our new radio home in Chicago, WSL. But wait, there's more. We'll be live. That's right. We won't be on any type of tape delay, so you'll be able to listen to the show and call in and participate in the show on WLS 890 AM in Chicago. I think that's what big market. So I'm looking forward to lots and lots of discussion in Chicago. All right. Anyway, we continue. I was talking about Kamala Harris, and I got distracted looking at A, listening to the great one, and B, hearing that Celine Dion was in Paris because she was singing at the Olympics. The Olympics have started. I was supposed to say that somewhere, right? To announce that. I haven't watched the Olympics in a very long time, but that's the news on the Olympics. Now, before I get into the FBI, Christopher Wray, all that stuff with Trump's ear, I want to backtrack a little bit to Kamala Harris, because Kamala Harris, she has a track record of supporting defund the police, and we got a little audio for you. Listen to this.
Part of this movement, and it's not just a moment, it's a movement, standing on the shoulders of the movements before. Part of this has to be about changing the system, rehauling the system, upending the system. And so that piece of it, you're right. Under this Attorney General, I have no hope for it being implemented. But God willing, he will be out of that office shortly. And then we need to have a requirement that that office do the right thing going forward.
So then if you're for overhauling, where do you stand on defund the police?
Look, right. So here's the thing. Defund the police. The issue behind it is that we need to reimagine how we are creating safety. And when you have many cities that have 1/3 of their entire city budget focused on policing, we know that is not the smart way and the best way or the right way to achieve safety. For too long, the status quo thinking has been you get more safety by putting more cops on the street. Well, that's wrong. Because, by the way, if you want to look at upper middle class suburban neighborhoods, they don't have that patrol car. They don't have those police walking those streets. But what they do have, they have well-funded schools. What they do have is home ownership, high home ownership rates. What they do have are thriving small businesses. What they do have is access to public health and mental health services. So this whole movement is about rightly saying we need to take a look at these budgets and figure out whether it reflects the right priorities.
So that's, again, Kamala Harris doing what she does, right? And there was a funny video I shared on social media a little while ago, basically saying that, she picks words and she says things about words, and then she says things about words, and because she likes words, and she explains these words and says things. And she has it. It was really funny. If I can find it, maybe we'll play the audio. You'll get a kick out of it. But ultimately, what I want to highlight here is that she says the underlying root cause of the interview, or what the whole movement is about rightly saying, is we need to take a look at these budgets and figure out whether it reflects the right priorities. That's, yes, she believes in defunding the police, right? And the go-to, this makes me laugh, the go-to for any progressive politician is to immediately say they have to reimagine. And I'm wondering, just you imagine, right? Not reimagine, regular imagine. Imagine a guy goes out with some of his buddies after work, comes home with lipstick on his collar, and his wife turns to him and says, "What is that? What is going on here? What were you up to?" And he turns around and says, honey, I think you need to reimagine how you're handling the situation. Just imagine, right? She would look at him and think, you're full of it. Don't patronize me. But yet she and every other politician that talks about reimagining, somehow that's supposed to inspire us and make us feel special. No, thank you. I'm not buying it. Not buying it at all. Anyway, that interview that you heard was on a New York radio station that I used to listen to all the time until they went increasingly away from playing hip-hop songs and doing hip-hop music interviews to really getting into politics and very, very, very ultra left-wing progressive positions on these issues. And it wasn't just during elections. Then it became a year-long thing, like listening to a show like mine, right? It became political commentary when it's supposed to be hip-hop. So I had to give up on them, and I switched to the Spanish station, which is way better. And anyway, bottom line is Ebro in the Morning is the name of the show. It's on Hot 97 in New York City. And Kamala Harris is going to regret that she did that interview, because now she has to own up to the fact that she supports defund the police. And when the orange man bad, right, Donaldus Magnus, El Trompito, the 45th president of these United States, in a debate or anywhere else, blasts her and says, well, I'm not the one that supported defunding the police, Kamala. She's going to say, imagine. And he's going to say, you told Ebro, right? And he's going to be able to call her out because he's got all the receipts, and so does the rest of America. So it's going to be really, really fun to watch this unravel, because she says the movement rightly should be analyzing police budgets or questioning the size of police budgets. And clearly, we're seeing that when it comes to law enforcement budgets, there were not enough bodies on the ground. There was not enough money for enough people to make sure that President Trump was safe at his rally, let alone the three other people that were shot, one of them being killed. So it's clear as day to me that she doesn't know what she's talking about. And the other big thing that they've been talking about with her is saying that it's going to backfire. Calling her the DEI candidate is going to backfire. That was one of my audio clips from yesterday that I wanted to play and I didn't get a chance. The reality here is, I'm not saying that she is the DEI candidate. I don't think you're saying that she is the DEI candidate. I think Joe Biden made a deal with Bernie Sanders and the rest of the Democrats where he walked away as nominee, and he said, I am going to choose a woman of color as my vice president. And he stood by that. He said he was going to hire somebody based on their ethnicity. And then right after George Floyd, he doubled down and said it's going to be a black woman. I think that's how that went. I might be wrong on that one. But right after he cut the deal with Bernie Sanders, I remember that clear as day. And it was always interesting to me. And he did the same thing with the nomination of Ketanji Brown Jackson. He said it's going to be a woman of color. How do you know? How do you know? Just imagine if you had if you owned a donut shop and you're like, look, I'm hiring for a position here at the donut shop, and you just make this pronouncement and it's going to be a woman of color. How? How do you know? Because it would be entirely illegal to have that prerequisite to hire somebody based on race. Now, if it happens to be someone that is a woman of color, super, no issue there. But how would you know ahead of time if you're just looking to hire somebody? And again, this is Joe Biden. This is how he ran his campaign. This is where we are. He said she was going to be hired because of diversity or equity or inclusion. I didn't say it. And now it's bad if you say it. Unbelievable. Anyway, we're going to get into the 2025 project, or Project 2025, however you like to put it. Tomato, tomato, potato, potato. And we're going to get some of the facts on that. We're also going to, what else do we have? Well, there's a lot of audio. We've got Trump meeting with Bibi Netanyahu. We also have the folks from the National Motorists Association joining us to tell us what's going on with these laws and these ridiculous congestion pricing and all sorts of other schemes that are just designed to bilk your money and have increased control by the government over you and your I can't talk tonight. Mobility. All right, folks. Anyway, stick with me. It's Rich Valdez. I'm here with you until 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Phone number is 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't move a muscle. It's Rich Valdez, and we're coming right back.
Across America to the liberty-loving Latino, Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. Rich Valdez here with you till 1 a.m. Eastern Time. 833-4825-337 is the phone number, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I want to direct your attention to part of the testimony given by FBI Director Christopher Wray yesterday. He was participating in a hearing on the investigation into the attempted assassination of Donald Trump. And what's interesting is he threw a little conjecture in there, and it came back to bite him in the butt. Listen to what he said.
As I said, I think with respect to former President Trump, there's some question about whether or not it's a bullet or shrapnel that hit his ear. So it's conceivable. Although, as I sit here right now, I don't know whether that bullet, in addition to causing the grazing, could have also landed somewhere else. But I believe we've accounted for all of the shots and the cartridges. So let us get that.
It's my understanding that the very first one was the one that hit the president. Is that the very first shot? Is that not accurate?
I don't, as I sit here right now, I don't know the answer to that. I believe we know the answer to that. I just don't have it in front of me.
Isn't that something, right? Let's analyze real quickly what he said. He says, when it comes to former President Trump, we don't know if it was a bullet or shrapnel or whatever that hit him. And then Jordan follows up and he says, well, no, we do know the answer. I just don't know. I have the answer. It's just not in front of me. Well, which one is it, bro? And why are you saying that? How are you going to come and sit here when you're supposed to be giving us information to the Oversight Committee, which oversees, what you're doing as their congressional constitutional function, and you sit there and you just make statements. Now, guess what happened? Well, they've had to actually correct the record. The FBI made a mistake because this guy wants to be a zángano estúpido pendejo, and he decides that he's going to, give some conjecture and, try and throw some shade on Trump and whether the legitimacy of Trump's getting shot, because they know, just like the newspapers know, just like everybody else in the media knows, that you make the false statement and then all you got to do is go back and correct it, and nobody's watching the correction, right? I'm going to bet most people on a Friday, many people take Fridays off to go on vacation so they can have long weekends in the summertime, haven't even seen this thing that came out at 7:39 p.m., so just about 3 hours ago. But the FBI said that a bullet or fragments of it struck Donald Trump's ear during an assassination attempt on the former president on 7/13 at the campaign rally. And this is from the FBI statement issued tonight. What struck former President Trump in the ear was a bullet, whether whole or fragmented into smaller pieces, fired from the deceased subject's rifle. Is that clear enough for everybody, Director Wray? A bullet or a piece of the bullet from the shooter hit Trump's ear because he moved his head, or it would have blown his head off. I find this just disgraceful. I've given the benefit of the doubt to Director Wray many times, but I got to tell you, no more benefit of the doubt for him. Perhaps I was overly gracious with him. The statement comes 2 days after, I said yesterday, it was 2 days ago. The statement comes 2 days after FBI Director Christopher Wray, whom Trump nominated to his post in 2017, told House lawmakers that there's some question about whether or not it's a bullet or shrapnel that, hit his ear. Now, I think the reason that Wray catches heat over this is because they're clarifying that it's shrapnel from the bullet, not shrapnel from other things that it may have hit, as the media suggested, that it hit the teleprompter and shrapnel from the teleprompter hit his ear. Wray had testified about the FBI's ongoing probe into the assassination attempt. A gunman identified as Thomas Crooks, 20 years old, was shot and killed after opening fire from an elevated post not far from Trump's July 13th rally in Butler, Pennsylvania. Left one dead, two critically injured. This is according to NBC News. This is also according to the Associated Press and ABC News. So the mainstream got it. The FBI has it right on their website. And it just is remarkable to me. It really is. Right here. Trump was struck by bullet in assassination attempt, FBI says. That's CNN. So it looks like everybody seems to be in agreement after Wray, tried to dance around this and say there seems to be some question there's no question anymore, right? CNN just clarified it. Trump was struck by bullet in assassination attempt. And it's shameful, right? He's going to dance around it saying, well, no, I meant, a fragment of the bullet. Maybe the bullet had hit something on the way in, blah, blah, blah. No, you know full well, you're the FBI director. If you don't know where the bullet went and you said you've recovered all these bullets, you're the one doing the investigation. Just imagine a police chief who gets asked a question about an ongoing investigation into the shooting of the mayor or the ex-mayor, and he's like, well, we know the answer. I just don't have it in front of me. What else do you know? What is more of a priority in your job? And again, maybe I'm being presumptuous. Maybe there is an active threat against the United States, and this is the 10th priority, and he's got 9 other pending issues, and maybe he can't tell us all about them. But you've got to do a better job in letting the American people know, right? I've had to be the manager of a department in the past, and one of the things I learned as a manager was that you have to let your people know, whether the people are the people you represent, the people that you lead in your team, the people that your team serves, the constituents, whatever it is, you have to let people know that you take them and their concerns very seriously. And sometimes it's as easy as that to say, hey, listen, Mr. So-and-so, Mrs. So-and-so, we take everything that you're saying very seriously. We take the fact that Trump got shot in the ear very seriously. Because that's really the question. I have a friend. It's more like a mentor, early political mentor, Professor Roland Alum, A-L-U-M. And Professor Alum is currently giving a speech or involved in some colloquia in, I'm going to say, some university in Mexico. I don't know which university, but he's there. He's an anthropologist, and he does this pretty often in Mexico, the Dominican Republic. Those are his areas of specialty, sometimes Puerto Rico. And he called me out of nowhere, and he says, I'll do my best Roland impression. He's, Richard, can you talk? I said, yes, Professor, what's going on? And Richard, I'm in Mexico. I don't have much time. I want to know, why does it matter for the FBI whether Trump was hit with a bullet or a piece of a bullet, and why was it important to make this pronouncement in a hearing? And after I laughed, because he's just so funny and eccentric with his highly educated Cuban accent, I said, it doesn't make a difference. This is just to throw people off and to throw shade on Trump. That is precisely what I suspected. Thank you, Richard. And he hung up. and I thought it was funny, but just this is the effect that these stupidities that Director Wray has uttered. This is the effect they have on people all over, right? Including my professor friend in Mexico. So anyway, we're going to talk about, before I get into that, I've got a clip of El Trompito weighing in on exactly what happened with his ear. Listen to this.
Did you see the FBI today apologize? They said, well, it might have been a bullet, but it might have been glass. So really, where did the glass come from? Or it might have been shrapnel. Where did the shrapnel come from? No, they then said it was a bullet. They just try and do it. It just never ends with these people. They raid Mar-a-Lago. They do things so bad, so bad. Our country is so sick.
That's El Trompito a little while ago. And he's 100% right. They are. This is a pernicious illness on the body politic. What's happening, it's not. A lot of people try to defend this because they want to be pro-law enforcement. And listen, I'm pro-law enforcement myself. But what I'm not is a pendejo. And this guy, Ray, and everybody that is under his command, I'll tell you this, and this is the truth. If I worked somewhere and I was forced to do things I didn't want to do, I wouldn't work there much longer. I just wouldn't. And I'm not saying I'm better than anybody in any way. I'm saying that people need to be able to live with what they do. And if the rank and file of the FBI don't like him, then at some point people need to ask themselves, how badly do I want my pension? How badly do I want my paycheck? Can I provide for my family another way that isn't by compromising my values and myself, supporting the mission led by this man? Because clearly the mission of the FBI to be this investigatory body, or what it morphed into after 9/11, this domestic terrorism intelligence gathering, like almost like a domestic CIA, if you will. That's not something any of us should be supporting. and again, I'm not trying to blast anybody working at the FBI. This is really from a private conversation I had with a special agent in charge of an office where I was in touch with these people. And I was making fun of them. I was like, oh, man, you're at the FBI. I can't mess with you. And they were like, listen, bro, we're embarrassed about it, too. And this was years ago, several years ago. So all I could tell you is it's only gotten worse. And they know it. They know it full well. And a lot of them were saying, look, we're a couple of years away from retirement. We're out of here. So by now, they're probably retired. But this is a serious problem, and one that we really have to address, because too many, I'd say one is too many, but way too many parts of our government have been politicized and weaponized and used against political adversaries. That wasn't always how it worked. The corrupt always operated that way, but that wasn't by and large how it worked. And that seems to be the standard status quo right now. That's a problem. So we're going to take your calls and more coming up. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back, familia. We continue with your thoughts, opinions, comments on the news of the day. Let's go to Atlanta, Georgia, WGKA. Let's go to Steve. Steve, go right ahead.
Mr. Valdez.
Yes, sir.
You're the best replacement for Bohannon.
Thank you.
That I literally could ever wish for. You
I appreciate it. Go ahead, go for it. What do you got? You're buttering me up for something. What do you got?
I want to know if you think the same as I do. We should not consider who is replacing Biden. It's Kamala now. Who her vice president is. Don't you think the Republican Party should sort of focus their angst on and all their advertising on what Democrats are, what they'll never vote on? Like, what do you think are the top things that Democrats that Democrats would vote for if they were in office? Doesn't matter what, if they were county commissioner or vice president. What would they vote on lockstep that are against the things that American families care about? And
here's the problem with that. I think the answer I would give you is emphatically no. And it's funny. I was thinking of including in my opening monologue tonight a statement that's actually the contrary of what you were saying. And I was going to say something like, listen, folks, I don't care if you're taking vacations on Fridays or not. Don't worry. The one thing you're not going to miss on this show is me attacking Kamala Harris every single day between now and Election Day, because that's exactly what I think we need to do. We have to show the contrast between what Kamala is and what she isn't. And the reason you have to do that, in my opinion, Steve, is because of this. She's the only singular human being running for president against Donald Trump. She's it. So putting her in a bucket with many Democrats really just stands the chance for Democrats to be like, well, now you're talking about me, right? I've been a Democrat my whole life. My parents loved John F. Kennedy and blah, 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 blah. But if I make the singular focus on this woman who is unburdened by what has been, who loves the yellow school bus, who says that we have a strategic alliance with a great partner in North Korea. What is wrong with this woman? Would she hit her head? A woman who says that we need to seriously look at police budgets because she supports defund the police. A woman that did not show up to our biggest ally in the Middle East, who's under attack by Hamas. And when he comes to give a joint session of Congress address, she bails out. And then Linda Sarsour, one of the most radical militant Islamists out there, goes on Twitter saying that Kamala Harris being absent from that address was for one reason and one reason only, because the pro-Hamas crowd in the United States has that much influence that they have forced her to not go. These are the messages that Iran is getting. So, yeah, I'm putting my focus intellectually, humoristically, and any other way that I can by way of this microphone on Kamala Harris and her abysmal record as a horrible prosecutor by one that held the evidence back, exculpatory evidence of somebody that was on death row, someone who has just she's no superstar when it comes to being a prosecutor. She's no superstar when it came to being a United States senator. She was attorney general, again, a very lackluster career, because in most cases she used the same tactics to get ahead. Politics, influence, focusing on the fact that she was a woman of color, and that seems to be very popular. I understand that. Listen, I wish it was just as easy for me to move forward saying that I'm a man of color. I wish it was, but the reality is radio's way too competitive, and you could be a man of color all you want, and if your show sucks, nobody's going to buy ads, no stations will pick it up, nobody's going to listen to it, and nobody's going to recommend to their friends that they should listen to it. Thankfully, I've been able to sustain my career for the last half a dozen years, but I understand competitiveness. Kamala Harris hasn't really experienced that. So she's about to go up against somebody I think is very competitive in Donald Trump. And she's, it's not even an even playing field. She's going to be going at it with all of the Democrats supporting her. And I mean the left within the Democrat Party, the left within the media, the left within higher education, the left within everything is supporting everything she's got. Donald Trump doesn't have that. Right? You've got the Lincoln Project. There are Republicans like Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger and the rest of them that don't like him. There are Republicans that say, I don't like Trump. I don't like his delivery. I don't like the mean tweets. His braggadocio is too much. I don't like what he says. I don't like this. I don't like that. He's too much of this. He's too much. There's nothing but complaints. I don't hear anybody complaining about Harris. They're like, oh, my God, it's a second coming. Kamala Harris. Anyway, my point is I appreciate the differences of opinion. I think that they're important. But, yes, we have to keep the focus on Kamala Harris. It has to be on her specifically because she is the nominee. She is the one that's running for president. It's not all the Democrats. It's not all the Democrat issues. Issues are great, and you're going to run on them, and you're going to debate them, and you're going to discuss them. But ultimately, to run a blanket campaign on just what's bad, and we're doing all of the above, right? So right now I'm talking about defund the police. In a moment, we're going to talk about Israel and why I think we should support them. So there's going to be several issues, but ultimately, they all come back to one thing that they have in common. Kamala Harris, the vice president who hopes to be president of the United States. And she has to be stopped for my children's future and, honestly, for the rest of this country's future. Steve in Atlanta, thanks for the call. I'll be right back.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, America, welcome back. And this is a short segment because in radio, I don't get to make up the clock, right? Let me see. I'll tell you exactly when it is. We've got at 10:58 and 12 seconds, I have to disappear from the air so that we can move into the next hour. So quickly, with 50 seconds to go, let's go to Paul, Boise, Idaho, KBOI. Go right ahead, sir.
Thanks for taking my call. Yeah, I think the three of them that decided not to see Netanyahu for his speech, I thought that was Bush League, the way they brushed him off, and I disagree with it.
All right, Paul, thank you for that. And folks, we're coming right back with your calls and more and the rest of the conversation that we have this evening. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you this Friday evening. We're live, we're national, and our phone number is 833-4825-337-833 Valdez. If you want to join our late-night national conversation, town hall conversation. And lots to discuss tonight. Of course, the FBI has issued a statement that President Trump was, in fact, shot in his ear. Despite what Director Wray said yesterday, they corrected the record today, just a few hours ago, making sure that any confusion that he may have incited was put to bed. We also have Prime Minister Netanyahu visiting with President Trump at Mar-a-Lago following his sit-down with President Biden and Vice President Harris in Washington, which followed his address to a joint session of Congress. So lots going on there. My hope is that the carnage will end in the Middle East, or at least in Gaza, because, you know, come on. Nobody wants to see this thing last forever, but everybody wants to see the job complete. And let me see. What else we got here? Over 3/5 of Americans believe Kamala Harris covered up Joe Biden's health issues. Yeah, I'm surprised it's not 5/5. I mean, come on. Her, Jill, everybody else. I mean, it was just absolutely insane what's going on. And, you know, they're making a push to try and say that certain traffic laws are being created because they're homophobic. Certain traffic laws are the way they are because they're racist. They're also trying to make things slower. Right there, in some states, they're looking to reduce the speed limit. I found this to be interesting because in recent years they were trying to increase the speed limit. Right, I moved from Brooklyn to Jersey, and in Jersey, I went from 55 to 65 a couple of years ago. A couple probably being like 15, or maybe more, and it was a big deal. You know, they were like, "Look, we're pushing it up by 10 miles per hour, but when we do, you're going to get double the ticket if you do, if you do exceed 65 and whatever." I remember it was such a big deal. There were so many public awareness campaigns around that. But anyway, we've got a report on this lowering of the speed limit. Check this out.
Neighborhood streets where people walk their dogs, get fresh air and exercise, and go to and from school. Activities that should feel safe, but often don't.
And sometimes these cars tend to go a little faster than the speed limit. So, it's a lot safer to walk off to the side.
It's why cities like New York, Boston, Seattle, and Tacoma reduced the speed in neighborhoods from 30 miles per hour to 25 miles per hour. Now, Dallas is exploring that possibility as part of a national campaign called Vision Zero. The goal, eliminate traffic fatalities by 2030. Dallas City Councilman Chad West is a proponent of Vision Zero, but was disappointed to hear that full implementation could cost a lofty $3 billion.
It's the first time we've seen staff's estimation of a budget that it would take to get this done.
But West says the neighborhood speed limit portion of the plan could be an affordable option to start with.
If we've seen a correlation between reducing the speeds in other cities and more safe driving and less injuries, why would we not consider it?
Traffic fatalities in Seattle decreased 26%, in part with reduced neighborhood speeds of 25 and 20 miles per hour. New York saw a 39% decrease in total crashes when its default citywide speed limit was lowered from 30 to 25 miles per hour.
Now, I don't know how realistic these things are or aren't. I can tell you that the only way I would support, I don't want to decrease anything. Look, what I want to decrease for me, and by the way, that's Lori Brown, Fox 4 out of Dallas. What I would like to decrease is the cars that speed down my residential block. Right, I live in it's probably 5, 10, I don't know, 15 miles an hour where people should be doing, but there's constantly somebody who got their license 10 minutes ago. It still has the little logo on it that says student driver on the back of the license plate, and flying, constantly happening. And I think to myself, if I were ever mayor of my small town, I would put in speed bumps. I would be the speed bump tyrant. They would hate me. I would raise taxes just to put in speed bumps if I had to, or I'd figure out a way to get the money. But unbelievable the way they speed around here. This is a tiny little community I live in where people are walking their dogs, women are pushing baby carriages. There's no main thoroughfare really through here. There's a main street. And yeah, everybody should drive slower, but I don't think we should reduce the speed limit. We just have to make people drive slower because clearly they don't have any self-control. But I want to get to somebody who's not just opining on this because they don't like how fast people drive in their neighborhood, but who does this for a living. Jay Beeber, he's Executive Director of Policy at the National Motorists Association. Jay Beeber, welcome.
Oh, Richard, pleasure to be on with you. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. So tell me a little bit about what's going on with this particular move to reduce speed limits.
Well, I think the mistake that a lot of people make is that reducing the speed limit actually reduces speeds. So that's the first mistake of this whole thing, and we heard that mistake actually in that report you ran there.
Which they're saying it happened in New York. They went from 30 to 25, and they think that it got better.
Right, they reduced the number on the sign. It did not make it better. The study out of Boston that they mentioned, when you look at the average speeds were what we call the 5th percentile speed, which is speed that 85% of the people don't exceed, did not change at all. So these are studies that are put out either by the city that has done this and wants to prove that what they did was correct, or in the case of Boston, this was a study by a group called the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Now, most people will know that group by the fact that they're the speed test dummy guys. The ones that are commercial. Right, exactly. Okay, but what they really are is they are lobbying arm of the auto insurers. So if you lower the speed limit and people get a ticket, then that's good for the auto insurers because then they can raise your rates. So the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety is notorious for coming up with fake studies that they massage and cherry pick so they can find one little ray of hope in the studies that they do, and that way they can promote these policies to lower speed limits. And here's what I want to say about speed limits. People drive the nature of the way the road is built. So if you're driving on a big wide boulevard, you're driving on a highway, you're going to drive the way, the speed that the roadway is built for. The government builds a roadway, and there's called the design speed. There's an operational speed. That's the speed that you throw a bunch of people out there, and what speed are people naturally going to congregate at? Yeah, of course there are some people that are the outliers or the dangerous drivers that are going to be speeding down your neighborhood street, and we're not condoning that, and those are not the people that we're in the business of protecting. But when the government builds a road, let's say, to encourage you and make it comfortable at 45 or 50 miles an hour, and they slap 35 miles an hour on it, and then they ticket you for doing exactly what they built the road for you to do.
Because going at that speed would slow things down.
Exactly. So all the studies that have ever been done by the federal government and everywhere else has shown that reducing the number on the sign does not have an effect on the actual speed. So if it doesn't have the effect on the actual speeds, it can't have effect on the safety of the roadway. In fact, it can make the roadway less safe because then what we have is what's called speed variation, which means that some people in the face of that lower speed limit sign will see it. They'll slow down a little bit, at least for a block or two or three or whatever. Everybody else is going the same speed, and it's much more dangerous to have a variation in speed on the roadway than everybody going about the same speed. The safest speed on the roadway, however you built it for, is for everybody to go about the same speed. That's why the people that are going way faster are dangerous and the people that are going slower are dangerous.
Folks, we're on with Jay Beeber, Executive Director of Policy at the National Motorists Association. And you mentioned that those folks over there are lobbying for the insurance agency. And I'd like to be upfront and say I lobby on behalf of we the people. And it sounds like you are lobbying on behalf of we the people in their cars. And that's a good thing. So we're coming right back with Jay Beeber from the National Motorists Association.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And I want to play an excerpt of Senator Josh Hawley interviewing a judge on why she thinks it's a good idea to not enforce traffic laws. Listen to this.
You've also written a paper in which you say that you don't think police ought to enforce traffic laws because it may lead to inequity. Do you remember that paper from 2023?
Yes, Senator.
Why is that? You don't want police to enforce traffic laws? I mean, it just seems to me, I'm having trouble following your positions here. You don't want the immigration laws to be enforced. You apparently think that any detention of illegals at the border is motivated by political calculations and is illegitimate, and you don't want police to be enforcing traffic laws. But you want to be a judge. How's this going to work?
Senator, the piece that you are citing documented efforts by cities along with police departments, and in some cases actually led by police departments, to move enforcement of things like hanging an air freshener from a rear view mirror to, for example, ticket by mail or parking enforcement.
Parking enforcement. So this is my question here, because we've all over New York City. I'm going to tell you a quick little story. I drove to my brother's wake. He died last year. And I remember my other brother telling me, "Hey, are you driving?" And I said, "Yeah." And he said, "Okay, can I ride with you?" And I said, "Sure." And I found it odd because he never wants to ride with me. Thinks I drive too slow, etc. Anyway, long story short, while we're driving down the West Side Highway in Manhattan, he looks at me and says, "Listen, make sure you're not going not a mile above the speed limit, and be careful." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because there's traffic cameras and they mail you the tickets." And he was telling me about how my nephew got all these tickets and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, all right, well, I don't typically break the law. So I was like, I'm fine, bro. Thanks. Lo and behold, I get, I think, 5 tickets in the mail, whether they were red light tickets, going 1, 2, 3, 4 miles above the speed limit, whatever, on my trip from Jersey to Brooklyn. And then, because I never got anything saying I got these tickets, but then I get a letter. The only letter I get says, "Hey, you never paid your tickets. So now there's an administrative fee on top of the fine they want to give me. And the bill for these 5 tickets," drum roll, please, $1,700. The New York City Department of Finance wants me to pay them for all of these infractions they say I've committed. And they just want the money. And they're like, you need to pay it now. Not, do you want your day in court? Do you want to plead not guilty? It was the most bizarre thing. I'm still fighting this stuff. But bottom line is, they have these cameras all over the city. And in some parts, they took them out, or they didn't put them in, or they haven't rolled them out yet. I can't keep up. But what I can tell you is it's messed up and it's not cool. I want to bring in Executive Director of Policy for the National Motorists Association, Jay Beeber. Jay Beeber, help us understand what's going on here with these automated ticketing machines and all of that stuff.
Well, the easy thing to understand is that this is a revenue generation scheme. The government cannot take enough of your money in other ways, so it's finding these ways, automating enforcement. And we believe that traffic enforcement should be done by trained police officers who are out there not only enforcing traffic laws, but enforcing other safety things and other laws. But what they want to do is they want to replace the police officers with these ticketing cameras. And just because the goal for them, not for police necessarily, but certainly the rank and file are not in favor of this, but they want to just find a very quick and easy way to take your money, and because they want to penalize you for driving your car. New York City doesn't want you to drive your car. Many other places around the country doesn't want you to drive your car. This is being pushed by, this is we need to get out of our cars. You need to take a bus. You need to ride a bicycle. You're destroying the planet if you get in a car and drive to the grocery store, take your kids to soccer practice, or go to your house of worship or whatever, and you're a bad person, you live a middle-class lifestyle, you have a car and a garage and a lawn. They hate this. They hate the freedom that goes along with having a car, and so they want to penalize you for this. Now, I can do an hour on the problems with New York City and their fake safety cameras, but the bottom line is, if we were talking about before the break, which was that they arbitrarily will reduce a speed limit. In the case of New York City, they have these fake school zones, and they run 24/7 when no school is in session. The speed limit drops to 20 or 25 miles an hour, and then they ticket you for driving just a normal speed on the roadway. And you probably, of the tickets that you got, if you got them in New York City, you probably got those, okay? And the red light camera ones, they're because the yellow light time on the cameras, on the lights are not timed properly, so it creates what's called the dilemma zone, and people violate by a fraction of a second, something you can't even see with the naked eye. And, you know, in let's say California, that's a $500 ticket. I don't know what it is in New York, but it's a giant scam. This whole thing is a giant scam, but it's all part and parcel of this war on cars, which is we don't want you driving a car. We want to tax you for every mile that you drive. We want to create a congestion tax, so quote unquote, so you don't drive into New York City, and they want to destroy commerce. They just don't like you having the freedom to get in your car and go anywhere. And the fact of the matter is that the personal automobile is one of the greatest drivers of prosperity and freedom that we have ever seen. It's one of the greatest inventions ever for that. And they want to destroy this. They want to turn back the clock and make everybody use, you know, what they believe is the right type of transportation, whether a bicycle or a bus or something like that. So you have to go either a limited amount of distance or where they want you to go on the schedule that they want you to go there.
Unbelievable. Now, Jay Beeber, Executive Director of Policy at the National Motorists Association, I'd like for you to tell all of our listeners how they can find you, how they can keep up to speed with the great work that you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. Well, the National Motorists Association, for those who don't know, we're the organization that got rid of the 55-mile-an-hour national speed limit in the 90s, and we are. You can find us at motorists.org or just Google National Motorists Association. Will come right up. We are the only organization nationally that is fighting for your freedom to travel using your personal automobile and making sure that these policies don't hold around the country. They are in many places. They're trying to get rid of right turn on red. They want to tax you for every mile. There's just a whole host of things that are happening right now, many of which may not have shown up in your area, but they're coming soon. So join us. We need your help. We need your support. Become a member. The cost of membership is really cheap. It's the cost of a tank of gas, or maybe a half a tank of gas in California. But it's $42 a year. It's nothing basically. And we're fighting for you. Help us help you, and join the fight with us and protect your freedom to travel in America.
Jay Beeber, outstanding. I definitely plan on inviting you back as we continue to take a look at what's going on with putting the kibosh on combustion engines, kill switches, congestion pricing, and all the other crazy stuff that's out there. So I appreciate it. Folks, check them out. Again, the website, motorists.org. Jay Beeber, Executive Director of Policy. Thank you for being with us tonight.
Absolutely. Thank you.
You bet. All right, America, we continue with more conversation from Marine Corps veteran, authored a book called The Race to Save America. All of that is coming up straight ahead, plus your calls on Open Phone America, 833-4-VALDEZ. Keep it locked right here. I am Rich Valdez.
Thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
What is that solution? Can you understand the frustration, though, that Americans have about the situation at the border?
I'm in charge, for example, of coordinating what we call a root causes strategy. What are the causes of people leaving? We have now raised $3.2 billion to help the folks in those countries stay.
That is Vice President Kamala Harris discussing her role as the quote-unquote border czar, trying to figure out why people are coming. That's how she saw the role. President Biden had another vision for that, as we played on some audio clips yesterday. But I want to talk about overall how this is impacting America. The Race to Save America, which is the book by Kate Monroe. And she's also the founder of Border Vets. Kate Monroe, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
My pleasure. So tell me a little bit about your thoughts on what's currently happening with Vice President Harris, who I like to call Kamala Harris, and her role as border czar, and what she apparently has not been doing.
Well, I like to call her Hyena Harris because she has this awful wanting to just laugh at the exact wrong time all the time. So with the border vets, I ran for Congress. I went down to the border with some razor wire, actually in 3 places in San Diego, made sure that migrants could not cross into our country illegally, like went out of our way to show the veteran community, look, we are going to stand in the gap and try to prevent them from taking your funds, from, creating a rise in veteran homelessness. So I actually went down to the border the other day and threw out a challenge, which went viral on TikTok. I had no idea. I got 1.3 million views in a day, where I said, I challenge you to meet me down here at the border. You couldn't do it when you were the border czar, whatever that means. So maybe you should do it now, since you're, going to be the heir apparent to the throne, trying to run for president now. So I don't think a lot of her I'm sure you can tell from my tone.
Yeah. Now, I want to thank you for your service. And I want you to tell us a little bit about how you see this unfolding. Having been down at the border and seeing, obviously, the failures of the current administration, in particular, border czar Harris, and the end game here. Do you think this is a position that Kamala Harris can use to her advantage in the upcoming election?
I mean, I don't know what she could possibly use as an advantage of her entire career. But certainly when it comes to the border, what an epic failure. You can't even go down to a border that 10 million people cross. You have the audacity to go, hey, we should get some money together and figure out why they're coming. Well, they're coming because you invited them here and you opened the border. You're literally doing a marketing campaign to the whole world. Hey, there's free housing for you. There's free food. There's free money on gift cards. Come one, come all for Democrat supremacy. Let's redistrict all of the districts in the country. And you want to gaslight the American people and pretend like you don't know why they're suddenly coming under your administration? It's the audacity for me is palpable.
Yeah, it seems that way. And what I find interesting is that very few tend to. I mean, of course, many on our side of the aisle tend to call her out, but it seems odd to me that there are so few Democrats, like Henry Cuellar and a few others that are down by the border, that are calling her out. Why do you think there's such silence amongst Democrats on this issue?
Well, I mean, I have to applaud the left in some regard. They will stand shoulder to shoulder with nearly no light between them, other than when they tried to push Biden out. But on every other issue, they will have no light between them, and they will go shoulder to shoulder and push forth their agenda. They do not care. They will get Democrat supremacy at all costs. It isn't that they don't think she's a joke. You think the Obamas want to support Kamala Harris? You think, the Biden family, the Clintons, any of these people want to step up and say, this is our lady? Absolutely not. It's their worst nightmare, because I don't think that they think she can win, but they will say anything to get what they want. They do not have any couth or moral compass, in my opinion. Yeah.
Well, and honestly, and I'll take exception to the fact that I think their real worst nightmare was Joe Biden, and that was why they pushed him out. So she's like second place worst nightmare. Folks, we're going to come right back with Kate Monroe. Go ahead. What'd you want to say?
I was just saying, I don't think they thought they were going to end up with her, but here they have her, so you enjoy it.
Yeah, like the surprise that nobody really wanted. Folks, we're coming back. Kate Monroe is a Marine Corps veteran. She's the CEO of Vetcomm and the author of The Race to Save America. We're going to learn more about the book when we come back. Don't move a muscle.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
You have experience and skills in interviewing, or you wouldn't be on your program.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Quote unquote border czar. Vice President Harris was not a border czar.
Meantime, Vice President and border czar Kamala Harris facing some backlash.
What he said about Harris and immigration was not true. She was never appointed border czar.
And this will be her first visit to the U.S.-Mexico border region since she was appointed as the border czar by President Biden.
People are going to have to counter the misinformation. You already hear folks talking about the border czar. She wasn't the border czar.
President Biden tapped Kamala Harris, Vice President Kamala Harris, to be the border czar.
Now, she wasn't the border czar. That's what Republicans labeled her.
They were very critical of Kamala Harris, especially in her role as border czar.
Now what she's up against is folks lying about her border record, calling her a border czar.
Kamala Harris, who was appointed as the border czar.
The Biden team didn't declare her the border czar. They wanted her to work on kind of the root causes of immigration.
There has been so much criticism against Kamala Harris. You know, she was the border czar.
Calling her sort of the border czar, which wasn't necessarily the case.
So the border, if they weren't planning to address it in a major way, do not make her your border czar. She met with some of the Northern Triangle countries, but nothing has effectively changed.
And yada, 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 yada. Kamala Harris is not a good border czar. She's a bad border czar. I want to continue our conversation with Kate Monroe. She's a veteran of the United States Marine Corps, the CEO of Vetcomm, and the author of a book called The Race to Save America. Kate, as we were talking about Kamala Harris and her disastrous failures in whatever work she's done at the border, I want you to help us understand how this parlays into this book you've written, The Race to Save America.
Yeah, the Race to Save America, you know, when I ran for Congress myself, I was looking at what are the biggest issues that we face as a nation. You know, and border being one of them, you know, homelessness, veteran affairs. There's so many things on the table that need to get fixed. I said, it's not enough to say, hey, we have problems. You need to be a solution provider. So that is what this book is. It's essentially a guide. If you read it, it will tell you here are the problems and here are 2 or 3 strategies that unequivocally could fix any of these problems. So it's a problem solution guide for America. And I named it The Race to Save America because we're entering into a situation where we're about to hit an event horizon, where there's going to be a spot where we can't turn back, right? And so this was the race, like we need to hurry up and get it, but it's also this race, this election cycle is the race that will save America. And so, you know, in my book, I call out this, you know, administration that we currently have on what they created here at the border.
And I think it's important to highlight those things. Now, with your work that you've done with border vets and the work you've done with the book, tell us, you know, do you see any improvement on the horizon but for electing someone else as president?
I do not see any way out of this other than we get someone back in. You know, it's really down to likely Kamala Harris or President Trump. And I think if we just got in a time machine, we went back to, you know, the Trump administration, we would realize that we had very little border crossing. The wall was getting built. We were a much safer nation. Other countries were not trying to start wars. I think short of us getting Trump back in the White House, this is why I tell all my friends, I'm actually married to a Democrat. And even he agrees what's going on at the border. What's going on at the border, even he says that is crazy and that has to get fixed. And he will admit that under Trump, we were a safer nation. So no matter your ideology, if you want to be safe and your kids to be safe and America to be safe, there really is only one choice, and it's to reelect President Trump.
Yeah, I agree with that. And something that I think is interesting, when you put aside the border, when you look at the overall just handling of everything, right? Whether it's inflation, whether it's foreign policy, this administration has been pretty abysmal on everything. And I find it, you know, I guess shifting gears to get your analysis on the politics of this, the election is fascinating to me this time around because somehow they thought Biden was no good and the media and everybody jumped in on this feeding frenzy and all right, let's get rid of him. And now it's Kamala and they're like, she's ready to lead. She's a prosecutor. She's doing fantastic. But none of that changes the issues, right? The issues remain the same, that people are spending a fortune to fill up their cars when they go to the gas pump, People are spending a fortune to fill up their grocery cart when they go to the supermarket. And these things I feel like they're not getting the mentions that they need from the Democrats, and obviously so. They don't want to highlight their failures. But do you think that all this talk about being the prosecutor and going after Trump because they know his type is going to hold much water come November?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think people are pretty sold on leaning toward Trump. I have a ton of people in the other camp that are like, you know what, my bank account just cannot sustain another round of this nonsense. Because, so for instance, I'm the CEO of a publicly traded company. In my company, there's a CEO, COO, CTO, a vice president, whatever. We all sit in a boardroom together. We run the company together. So this woman has been running this country alongside of President Biden, and this is where we are. And you can rewind back to her tenure here in California. Prop 47, this smash and grab nonsense where you can basically just make crime legal. That was her.
They lowered it from $1,000 to $900.
Correct. You want to lock up as many black and brown people as you possibly can while you're here, and you want to laugh that off. That's the best you can do, and then you expect this community to want to put you in office? Like I said earlier, the audacity of what is going on, it just blows my mind. And what even makes, sometimes I wonder, how do these people get to this high in office with little or no experience of doing something at this level?
Yeah, I'm with you on that one. And Kate, before we wrap, I want you to tell the audience a little bit about the organization that you run, Vetcomm.
Yeah, so I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I'm rated at 100% disability compensation level. And I say that because the difference between being a disabled person and collecting compensation from the VA are very different things. So what we do is we help veterans navigate through the minefield that the VA puts ahead of them that prevents them from getting compensated. So we have helped 5,000 people over the last calendar year get almost $924 million in lifetime income. So, and sometimes if you're listening to this now and you're not getting all you should and you're not getting anything, you are likely 120 days away from getting up to $3,600 a month tax-free. That is what we do. We make it very simple for veterans to fight the VA. I don't want to make the VA out to be an enemy, but they're like an insurance company and they don't want to pay. So we help you make sure that you actually get what you are owed.
Wow. Well put. My daughter had a small accident not too long ago, and the insurance company did not want to pay. I'm still fighting with them to pay something.
Imagine
it's amazing.
Our government does not want to pay.
And I pay them to pay insurance. It's crazy. Kate, stick with us. I want to come back. I want to get your take on the homelessness crisis in California. Governor Newsom made some interesting comments yesterday, and I want to get your take on it. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Governor Gavin Newsom issues an executive order to remove all homeless encampments in California. The order comes on the heels of the U.S. Supreme Court's recent ruling allowing cities to enforce public camping bans. While Newsom cannot order local authorities to act, he can withhold funding to counties and cities. The order guides state agencies on how to go about removing encampments.
That is a report. Who is it from again? Fox 11 in L.A. And I bring that up because I know that this has been a constant battle. And this is one that the governor really didn't try to do anything about. I mean, now he's able to do something doesn't mean he's going to do something. But I want to come back to our guest because I know she's had some opinions on this in the past. Marine Corps veteran and CEO of Vetcomm. She's also the author of The Race to Save America and the founder of Border Vets. Kate Monroe, When you hear a report about what's going on in California, what's your initial thought on that?
Well, I have walked the homeless encampments in San Diego, Oceanside, LA. I've walked it in the Tenderloin. And I don't think that the only good thing that's going to come out of this is Newsom is going to get what he wants, which is to be able to build more transitionary housing. I have said from the start that we need to build base camps. People are not good with going from the curb to indoors. 60% of them end up overdosing or killing themselves. It's just a money mill for the homeless industrial complex to make money. He's sitting over there just licking his lips and rubbing his hands together, so excited that he's going to be able to put all of these people inside, not caring that they will end up dead. Because transition without transformation, I have learned in the last year, is a completely futile experience. So I don't think that he's going to be able to clean this up as easy as he thinks and get his way and get all these people inside, because the people might not like people camping on their streets. They're not going to want them living right next to them doing drugs either. So short of building these base camps, I don't know what exactly you do that's actually a fruitful experience for the general public.
Yeah, really well put. And it's difficult to solve, I feel, because they've allowed it to go so far and to the point where they've supported it. And, you know, just moving from California a little bit further east to Seattle or to Oregon, and you think of when they decriminalized or legalized the use of drugs publicly, and then people started using drugs publicly in public squares, and then supplying them with needles.
Up in Portland. Yeah. I just went and walked in Portland. It's a zombie town. People are walking around naked doing drugs, and a lady stood over me and smoked fentanyl. I almost had to call an ambulance. Wow. It's absolutely bananas what has been allowed to happen. I actually put out this op-ed that said, walk by, get high, nearly die in Portland. That is what you're up against in these cities.
That's crazy. Oh, my gosh. So I think of all of that, and I think, man, this is the road that they have to travel, because they've gone there, they've supported it, they've created this huge mess, and now they're saying, all right, look, we can now enforce the rules against public encampments, and maybe we will, maybe we won't, and as the report suggested, that Newsom can withhold funding, but will he? This guy loves to spend money.
Well, he loves to spend money on things that make the homeless industrial complex, which he is a part of, money. They want to build more of this transitionary housing. I have spent a lot of time researching why veterans become homeless. Right? There's 40,000 homeless veterans in our country, 1.3 million of them at the brink, which is, for a country who says they love veterans and active duty military so much, how we have left this many people on the street is beyond me. But I can tell you, as a resident, as a person who ran for Congress, as a veteran here in California, thank God it's not Newsom running, because the rest of the country could not afford what we have been through here in California. And Kamala Harris was also here. We can't afford any more of their policies across the nation.
Kate Monroe, I want to invite you back, because I'd love to actually spend 2 or 3 segments on just that, on why we have so many homeless veterans, because that's a problem that's been around since I was a kid and we haven't solved. But the music means we both got to go. So I want to thank you for being here. You're a gentlewoman, a scholar, and a patriot. Thank you.
Thank you. You
bet. Folks, we are going to continue our conversation with you all, the American people. Open Phone America, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. And I'm looking forward to speaking with you guys. Get your calls in now. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of the program. It's the Friday night edition of the show. I'm hoping to speak with you guys tonight. 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And, of course, we're going to be taking your calls from Oregon and Washington and New York and Florida and all over the country. So we're looking forward to a really robust conversation. And the Olympics are in Paris. That's right. And the number one story that I'm seeing on Breitbart.com right now, listen to these headlines right here. Demonic wokeness. Next headline. Paris Olympics 2024 opens with a drag queen parody of The Last Supper. And what they are suggesting is a bisexual performance that suggested a possible threesome. I'm not describing this, I'm reading it from Breitbart. Non-binary athletes take Paris by storm, and so much more that's going on there. Now, the reaction has been so severe that they're mocking Christianity, attacking Christianity, that people all over the place are commenting on this on social media, as well as, on their podcasts and whatnot. One of them is Avi Yemini. He put out a video a little while ago. Listen to this.
Make no mistake, Paris has officially declared this year's Olympic Games as a satanic anti-Christian freak show. From riding a pale horse to dancing drag queens to more drag queens, this time mocking Christianity's most sacred moment, the Last Supper Jesus Christ shared with his apostles in Jerusalem before his crucifixion. Now, if you're one of those people just brushing this all off as art, please ask yourself this. Why do they always only ever seem to mock Christianity? For example, you don't see official government-sanctioned international events mocking Islam. Because let's be honest, you and I both know how that would end. So why are you okay with them targeting Christians? You shouldn't be. The time has come for all of us non-Christians or even non-believers to stand up and demand the same respect for Christianity as every single other religion.
Again, that's Avi Yemini on his program. And I want to pull on that thread a little bit because this is some of the commentary from Warner Todd Houston, from Breitbart, saying that further making the Olympics opening ceremonies, quote, the gayest ever. Parisian Olympic officials also featured an LGBTQ parody of The Last Supper, along with a woke fashion show featuring gender-bending fashions and transgender models. I mean, nothing says the Olympics like, wow, you got to see these pictures. Literally, I'm going to retweet this here, but I'll do it during the break. It's from the Olympic Games at Olympics on Twitter. The images of just these are, for lack of a better word, just very weird-looking people that are displayed on a huge platter as if they themselves are the food. Wow, very weird. Anyway, the report continues with a lot of these videos that are on Twitter, but people are really concerned with what seems to be happening here with the Olympics, being a competition of sports and athletic prowess, and somehow now becoming something else, something that has succumbed to wokeness, right? And I think this is a theme that we have in the world, not only in America, but in the world, where we're seeing people fall victim to this left and right. And it's just shocking to me that, even something like the Olympics, right? Something where countries from around the world get together to compete, and somehow, there's unity, and it's just fun to watch. And we saw it happen with the NFL. We saw it happen in baseball. We've seen it happen with all sports in the United States. And now it's happening with the Olympics. And again, it happened a couple of years back, right? Remember the whole fist in the air thing? That was a big thing. And there was some history of it some years ago. I understand taking a stand. I really do. And I also understand, to some point, the taking of a knee. Not necessarily the way it's been done, but I get it, right? They were trying to bring awareness to something, but this goes beyond bringing awareness. This goes to trying to bring an agenda. Everybody knows that these are like family type of things, right? When you watch the Olympics, you might watch the gymnastics with your children in the room. They might enjoy that too. I had two little girls growing up. So yeah, we watched the Olympics and they like gymnastics and stuff like that. And just imagine if I got to start explaining, oh, well, that woman's not really a woman. You know, the reason she looks funny is because she's actually a man. She's dressed like a woman. And you have to start coming up with, you know, child-friendly answers like, oh, well, you know how you get dressed up on Halloween? Sometimes these people get dressed up, but it's not Halloween. And you just have to go to things where, 10, 15 years ago, it wasn't that we lacked any understanding of things. We had a better understanding of just making sure that the things that got on TV were appropriate. I mean, I don't want kids seeing, some of the racy, provocative, heterosexual stuff that's on television. I mean, I think, TV should be TV. It should be whatever. If people want to watch X-rated stuff, they know how to do that. But that shouldn't be what's coming over the air with potentially with their children in the room. So anyway, that's the big story about the Paris Olympics. As there's more on it, I'll bring it to you. And there's a lot of videos. Won't be able to bring you all that tonight, but we'll have plenty to discuss on Monday. And you could see some of these, I'll tweet them out, some of these comparisons of what looks like the Last Supper. And it really is eerie just to see that this is the way they did it. Anyway, I want to continue. Let's go with the next story here. We did FBI Director Wray. They had to clarify that. That didn't happen. 3/5 of Americans believe Kamala Harris covered up Biden's health issues. Yeah, who doesn't believe that? The Harris campaign joined TikTok. Guess what? Biden signed a ban on TikTok. That's funny. And Russia is suddenly open to peace talks with Ukraine after Biden dropped out of the 2024 race. Well, that's a good thing, right? I'm glad that they realize this is coming to an end, and let's have that conversation. Right now, let me see. There was something else I wanted to bring to your attention that I thought was very interesting tonight. Oh, yes, it was Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris, we were talking about Russia, and I want to talk about what's happening with Islam, right, and the Islamic terrorism that's going on. Listen to this one, cut number 4. It's Kamala at the Islamic Center of Southern California.
You must have the courage to object when they use that term, radical Islamic terrorism, which ignores how Muslims have overwhelmingly been the greatest victims of terror. And we must also have the courage to reject that term, illegal alien. I have seen some of the worst of criminal behavior. I have seen the worst of crime. An undocumented immigrant is not a criminal.
So there we have the prosecutor, right, who wants to be the prosecutor in chief. Not really. I mean, she wants to be the commander in chief, but she claims to be the big bad prosecutor, and she wants to normalize or legalize or legitimize the legalization of terror. She says we have to get rid of terms like radical Islamic terrorism. Okay. Just you want to call it radical terrorism that comes from Islam or from Islamist states or actors? We could do that. I mean, because what would you call it if you had a bunch of neo-Nazis that were doing domestic terrorism? Would we call it radical Nazi terrorism? I think we probably would, and that would be appropriate. So why not call things what they are? Like the Spanish flu is a big thing, right? 1917. The Chinese flu or the China virus, as Trump said. What was wrong with that, right? The China flu. I think that would have been appropriate. So you have to call things as what they are, in my opinion. And she wants to get rid of terms like radical Islamic terrorism and illegal alien. And being an undocumented immigrant is not a criminal. Well, the term illegal alien does not infer, in my opinion, that they are criminals. It infers that their alien status is not legal, right? Now, undocumented immigrant, while is a softened blow for that, I think just doesn't always accurately convey it. right? It really neutralizes it to the point where there are documents on the undocumented, and that's why I think it's inaccurate. But they're here unlawfully. I would be happy to say unlawful immigrant or unlawful alien, someone who entered the country unlawfully. I think that's fair. If I needed to compromise, that's where I would go, because they're not all guilty of a crime per se, right? There's criminal activity and there's unlawful activity, and they're not necessarily the same, right? This is why you don't get put in jail for speeding unless you're doing like over 100 or, for taking a red light. Those are things that are unlawful and they're violations of the law, but they're not crimes. That's why you don't go to criminal court for them. You go to traffic court. So I get it. Now, I would suspect that, or I would suggest that someone coming across the border, a border that is protected by armed men and women, that this should be considered a crime, right? That should be considered a criminal activity. Whether it is or it isn't remains to be seen, and there's tons of debate about it. I think it should be, because we don't know what is the purpose, right? Just imagine if I tried to sneak into Mexico or into Canada. I mean, they just don't allow that, right? They would likely prosecute me if, or at least kick me out and send me back. They wouldn't let me just come in and say, hey, where do you want to go? Oh, you want to go to Montreal? Oh, gotcha. Let's get you on a plane. Okay, we're going to get you right in. Would you like a debit card? Sure, here's a debit card. We're going to get you some money. Yeah, you bet. Now, listen, there's a beautiful hotel once you get to Montreal. It's in the middle of the city, and we're going to put you up there for 7 months. And to make sure you have some spending cash, we're going to get you some money, okay? All right, you're good. Just imagine if that was the reception for people sneaking into Canada. I mean, that's just pure insanity. Anyway, I want to get to your phone calls, your thoughts on the Olympics and everything else. So let's go to the phones as soon as we come back. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. The best guests, the best opinions. This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, amigos, welcome back. And I am with you for another half hour until 1 a.m. Eastern time. If you're in a different time zone, well, welcome to the program. And the phone number, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's go to Berwick, Maine, WTSN, and check in with Kathy. Kathy, go right ahead.
Hello there from Maine. I don't.
All right, let's put you on hold. Your phone is not working well on our end, but we continue. Let's go to Linda, Albany, New York, WGDJ. Go right ahead.
Thanks for taking my call and for all you're doing to get the truth about things out there. It was interesting listening to the conversations about license plates. A number of years ago, my sister received a ticket from being in New York City, but it happened to be right that week we were skiing in Canada and could prove we weren't even in the country when she got that. Yeah. Yep. So it's interesting how that.
Oh, well, how did you fare with that? What did you do? Take it to court?
She she was able to send a proof down. We weren't in the country, so there was.
So they let it go?
Yeah.
Wow. Unbelievable. So people, you see, stories like that just bewilder me because it makes me think, what what is actually happening. And when people say, oh, there's no way there's any type of voter fraud, well, they could just as easily have you vote if they can have your car, ticketed for being in a, some sort of moving violation while you're out of the country, unless somebody's joyriding in your car. It just seems so far-fetched to me that would happen. But once it's happening, then it's not far-fetched at all, right? It's totally understandable that anything could happen with the government and their crazy ways. Very crazy. Linda, thank you for your call. Big shout out to you in Albany, New York, WGDJ. Big shout out to Paul V, your morning host. Great guy as well. And I want to continue. Let's go to John. John's in Vero Beach, Florida. John, go right ahead. WTTB.
Yes, Rich, it's a pleasure to always frequent listener. And oh yeah, you're the greatest. I am absolutely thrilled. I'm thrilled that they touched on the subject of the homeless because I have had this idea for years. I've been talking about it with other veterans that they should build large encampments, with kind of like large domiciliaries for the homeless. Snatch them up off the streets, get them in these large encampments. They're far outside the city limits, and you would be screened when you come in as to what your problems are, drugs or whatever, or alcohol and such, and then you would be moved to certain sections of the domiciliary that deals with your specific problems, and then they would be given a path to rehabilitation to get them back on their feet again and back out in the public. And that would be the best solution, I think, is because there is a system that is already in place for veterans, but on a very, very limited scale. It's the domiciliary system within the VA for the VA homeless. There's one in Coatesville, Pennsylvania, large domiciliary where you get screened, checked in, and then you're sequestered in a certain building, that deals with certain problems of each different kind.
Yeah. John, I get the flavor here. And my buddy Curtis Sliwa, he's a broadcaster out of New York, and he ran for mayor a couple of years back, and he might run again this year or next year, this coming year. And he had a very similar idea, and he was actually, it wasn't an idea he came up with. It was an idea that they had done in New York. At one point in New York City, they were taking people, bringing them upstate, and to these larger areas where they had these big camps, and they were helping them with the same thing, like whether it was schizophrenia or whatever their issue was, and helping them kind of get back on their feet. But they were able to get them out of the city and into a better environment. So great idea. John in Vero Beach, Florida, WTTB. Big shout out to everybody in Florida. Folks, I'm coming right back. Your calls and more coming up. 833-4-VALDEZ.
Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
What is the greatest national security threat to the United States? It's Donald Trump.
We're talking about Donald Trump weaponizing Twitter in a way that could result in real consequence, including death, and we have to take that seriously.
Do you think he puts people's lives in danger when he targets them in tweets?
Absolutely.
Do you think he knows that?
Does it matter?
Being practical also recognizes that climate change is an existential threat to us.
Pause this for a second, because do you think it's dangerous when he criticizes people in tweets? Absolutely, she says. You tell me the person that was shot at because of a tweet that Trump put out. I'll wait. Now, you tell me the Trump that was shot at because of all of the rhetoric coming from the Biden administration, Harris, and the rest of the left on how he's a threat to society and he's Hitler. Exactly. Go ahead.
as human beings. I don't even call it climate change. It's a climate crisis. It represents an existential threat to us as a species.
Will you commit to implementing a federal ban on fracking your first day in office, adding the United States to the list of countries who have banned this devastating practice?
There's no question I'm in favor of banning fracking. I strongly believe that we need to have Medicare for all. And within that system,
Do you think that's socialist or not, Medicare for all?
No, it's about providing health care to all people.
You support giving universal health care, Medicare for all, to people who are in this country illegally?
Let me just be very clear about this. I am opposed to any policy that would deny in our country any human being from access to public safety, public education, or public health, period.
Would you support a federal gun license?
I like the idea.
People who are convicted in prison, like the Boston Marathon bomber, on death row, people who are convicted of sexual assault, they should be able to vote?
I think we should have that conversation.
Wow. Even Don Lemon wasn't going for that. Que mala eres. How bad you are is what I would tell her if she were here. Anyway, I want to get into this a little bit here with you all. Of course, I want to get your thoughts on this and everything else we're talking about, whether it's the border, whether it's dementia, whether it's the latest with you and yours and your household, whatever you got on your mind, I want to talk about it. But I want to just go on this vein a little bit because those are just some of the radical policy positions that Kamala Harris has, right? Que mala eres, which in Spanish means how bad you are, how bad she is indeed. And this is the candidate, right? This is the vice president that they're propping up now to be the best thing ever. She's the prosecutor that's going to prosecute Trump. But it wasn't that long ago that Joe Biden himself admitted that this was a diversity candidate, if you will. Listen to this.
Are you committed to naming a black woman as your vice presidential running mate? What makes this so ugly is that it reveals a truth that is clearly broadly held within Republican circles. That white men, by definition, when they have a job, earned it and deserve it. And anybody but a white man is a DEI hire.
That is Joy Reid. Joy Reid saying that anybody but a white man, but that's not true. That's not true. I would say it would be, listen, you can make this argument because the idea that DEI hires are, in effect, people you're hiring to ensure that you're not hiring a white man, like anybody but, right? And that's her words. If the idea of adding diversity, equity, and inclusion to an organization or anything like that was because we could hire white people, then there wouldn't be an issue, right? If you could hire anybody you wanted, then I think that's the idea. Then we're dealing with merit, and it's a meritocracy. So it's a zero-sum game here with Joy Reid. Obviously, if Joe Biden says that you're committed to he was committed to naming a black woman as his vice presidential running mate, that precludes everyone else, and that's the number one. He didn't say I'm looking to bring in a black woman that has a record of this, and this. He just said I'm looking for a black woman, and then of course he tries to find somebody that fits the bill. But the mere fact of you saying that I'm going to bring in a black woman, just imagine if I was going to bring in a co-host on this show. I said, look, I'm going to have a co-host here. And I want to bring in the best broadcaster, somebody that's going to hold your attention, to add humor, intellect, analysis, somebody that can respect a radio clock and use enough words quickly to get in and out of commercial breaks when we're counting seconds. But no, I just go, no, don't worry. None of that matters. I'm just bringing in the person that I believe is the best Asian I can find, or the best African-American I can find, or the best, you name it, whatever race you want to use. Of course that's unfair. Of course that's wrong. Unbelievable. But they got what they wanted. And Barack and Michelle Obama today have endorsed Que mala eres. I want to get your thoughts on this. 833-482-5337. Listen to this phone call.
I can't have this phone call without saying to my girl Kamala, I am proud of you. This is going to be historic.
We called to say Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you and to do everything we can to get you through this election and into the Oval Office.
Oh, my goodness. Michelle, Brock, this means so much to me. I am looking forward to doing this with the two of you, Doug and I both, and getting out there, being on the road. But most of all, I just want to tell you the words you have spoken and the friendship that you have given over all these years mean more than I can express. So thank you both. It means so much. And we're going to have some fun with this too, aren't we?
They're going to have some fun with it, and so should you. Now, listen, my biggest critique here is that why on earth didn't they have like a big event? Why didn't they have like a little kickoff rally or something and have Obama headline it and say, and let me be clear, I'm here to support Kamala because I think Kamala's the best thing since sliced bread, blah, blah, blah. But this obscure phone call, right? That's, half video, half phone call, whatever. Michelle and I couldn't be prouder to endorse you. It just seems so weak. And it makes me think, if you're not putting your best foot forward, if you're not putting in the effort, why aren't you? Now, I know I have my friends in conspiracy land that have already told me, the reason they don't care is because it's a trap. Whoever runs against Trump, it's a trap and blah, blah, blah. Just stop. Just stop with this white hat, black hat, mumbo jumbo. Please, for just a second, just pay attention. Pay attention to what's happening. People think that there's like 4 guys on the internet that mainly have shows on websites like Before It's News or BitChute, and that these guys are in the know, and everybody else is just a victim of the mainstream media, propaganda, and the Matrix. My goodness. Anyway, all the conspiracy people are about to rip me on Twitter. And you don't know, Trump is right, blah, blah, blah. Okay, thank you. I'm voting for Trump. Anyway. I want to get to your calls. Let's hit the phones. Let me see. Where do we go? Let's try Kathy again. Berwick, Maine, WTSN. Go right ahead.
Hey, my father worked for Ma Bell for 35 years.
Oh, nice.
Way before cell phones and everything else. He lived to be 100. But, hey,
wow.
There's nothing like a regular phone, is there?
Yeah, you're right. All sorts of things happen on cell phones. They start to get garbled and whatnot, but you sound terrific, and I'm glad you called back. What's on your mind tonight, Kathy?
Okay, I just want to say I grew up with a party phone line, and that doesn't mean cake.
Oh, yeah, that's when everybody's on the phone together. I remember that.
You could find out some stuff if you wanted to. Okay, well, what I want to say, I had a good friend, Dean Valdez, but with a Z, who moved to Austin, Texas. But
well, big shout out to him.
Yeah, I hope they're all right down there. On President Biden, I worked on a GPU unit at Frisbee Hospital for 11 years, and GPU stood for what? Geriatric psychiatric unit or something.
Mm-hmm.
And
so you're dealing with old people with mental issues.
Yeah, but originally the job was great. I play the piano, I do other things and read to them, and I'd sit with all these memes in the TV room and watch Lawrence Welk.
And did you bump into Joe Biden while you were doing that?
No, but I saw a guy who looked like him. Yeah. Oh, yeah. What happened is we got Mr. I shouldn't say any names, but up near like New Durham, New Hampshire, near the Lakes region, there's a famous lumber yard. And the man who owns it, I'm telling you, a successful business.
Yeah, we're running out of time, so you got to speed it up a little bit, Kathy.
So, all right. Biden shouldn't be ashamed about having dementia, just like Roosevelt had polio. It's a disease.
Yeah, that's a good point. And I think that the issue here is that whether Biden has, I don't think it's that they're ashamed. I think that they don't want to display weakness, by way of saying, look, I'm ill and I may be incapacitated due to this illness. I think that's why they kind of covered up FDR being in a wheelchair. I think that's why JFK, who had all those back issues and wore a back brace, they made him out to be this, young, handsome, very virile guy when, he actually wasn't that healthy. And there's a lot of that, right? You just don't want to portray weakness that can be used by, I guess, other foreign powers to your detriment and to their benefit. But I agree with you. You can't be ashamed of that type of thing. And the reality here is, if he has dementia, he likely isn't ashamed. He's probably more than anything just frustrated because he's forgetting words and whatnot. But the big rumor has been the Parkinson's doctor, movement disorder, all of that stuff. So I don't know. I don't know if he's, when we see him being slow or even kind of speeded up, if that's him taking Adderall or if that's just him taking medicine because he's dealing with Parkinson's or some other movement disorder. I don't know, and I don't want to speculate a ton on that because, that's this man's health. But ultimately, you're right. He shouldn't be ashamed, and what he should do is say, look, my health is not there, and that's why I'm stepping aside. The problem is if he says that, they'd say, well, if you can't run for re-election because of your health, you can't be president right now, and how dare you try and ride out the rest of this term? We think you should be pushed out, and the American people would likely turn on him. So it had to be about polls. It had to be about numbers. Can you win or not win? Kamala can win. She can be the prosecutor we need her to be, et cetera, and et cetera. So it really became about that more than anything else. But that's not really what it's about, is it? Kathy, thank you for your call. I appreciate you sharing those words of wisdom with us. Berwick, Maine, WTSN. Folks are coming right back. Your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
If we win, it'll be very simple. It's all going to work out and very quickly. If we don't, you're going to end up with major wars in the Middle East and maybe a third world war. You are closer to a third world war right now than at any time since the Second World War. You've never been so close because we have incompetent people running our country.
That is President Trump, Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, the 45th president of these United States, meeting with Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu earlier today at Mar-a-Lago. And I think Trump's right. If he wins, we're in better shape. If he doesn't win, we get more of the same, and more of the same leads us to a very, very difficult and challenged place. So I want to get to the calls here. Let's go to Jorge, Brooklyn, New York, listening to WFAS. Go right ahead.
Hi, Rich. I wanted to comment on the vice president. I once was a substitute teacher in Dallas. So I kind of understand what it is that she pretends to do. She takes issues like teachers do, that are difficult concepts, and she simplifies them. And people walk away thinking that she is as simple as a simplification that she's provided. And she isn't. And, she's in fact being underestimated. And
give me an example of how she has made something complicated simple.
Well, I can't call anything up out of hand, but for example, what happens is that it's like, the blocks that have letters.
I'm not going to get into blocks and letters. I'm talking about Vice President Harris because that's who you brought up. And I've heard her say things like unburdened by what has been. This is not a complicated concept. This is filler, right? This is she doesn't know what to say. She needs to buy some time. She's trying to sound deep and profound, but she's not. when she talks about, there's a lot of things that she talks about where she just makes absolutely no sense. And she's constantly ridiculed for these word salads, not my word, their word. The media even does that. So, I mean, I'm just disagreeing with you, saying I don't think she's being underestimated. I think, quite frankly, it's the exact opposite. I think she's being overestimated. I think she's in a ceremonial function as vice president. She was given a job, whether she was called czar or not, she was given a job of taking the lead and speaking for the president on the border issue. This border issue has not been improved in any way. Whether she likes to say that we've spoken with the countries in the Northern Triangle and we're trying to figure out the root cause. Imagine if you hired me as mayor of some city and there was a big fentanyl problem in the city and children were overdosing and dying. And I tell them, well, we're going to try and figure out why these kids are using drugs. Somebody's going to throw a shoe at me. And they're going to say, would you hit your head? What is wrong with you, sir? I don't care why these kids are using drugs. Get the drugs out of the community. Get the drug dealers out of here. Use the police to do your job, right? And that's ultimately what we have here. At the border, we absolutely have to. We have to take care of this problem. So why people are hating on Kamala Harris, quite simply, she is the vice president of the United States, which is largely ceremonial, yes, but there's an expectation that you're going to be effective in your job. And many people may not like the way Mike Pence handled the issue that arose from January 6th, the counting of the ballots, the certification of the election, and his opposition or disloyalty to Trump. And that's fair and legitimate. But what we can't say is that he was incapable. The guy was very capable. He was a governor. He was a congressman. And he's a very smart man. So I would not compare Kamala Harris to Mike Pence, not even on his worst day, not even close. Jorge from Brooklyn, New York, listening on WFAS. Thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Call back again soon. Getting to the rest of your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. This is known as the speed round. That means it doesn't matter if you keep talking, you won't be on the radio because you're only going to have 30 seconds to make your point. We've got 4 calls and 2 minutes. Let's see if we can pull it off. Let's go to Sean, Saratoga, New York, WGDJ. Go right ahead quickly.
Hi, thanks for taking my call. I wanted to touch on the DEI thing. Now, for years, minorities in this country just wanted to be treated equally and not differently because of the color of their skin. DEI does just that, but in a beneficial way, so I guess that doesn't count. Now, what self-respecting minority would want to take a job that they were hired simply because of the color of their skin or their gender?
100% right. I totally agree with you. Sean in Saratoga, New York, thank you so much. Alex, Cleveland, Georgia, WDUN. Go right ahead very quickly.
Hello, yes, sir. I just wanted to call and say that I love the show, man. I love to listen to it when it's on. And I hate Biden. I hate Kamala. And I love the fact that how you kind of rag on them both relentlessly. I think it's hilarious.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I know that you wanted to say something about RFK Jr. We had him on the show about a week and a half ago. If you missed that, you should check it out. Call back and we'll discuss a little more. Folks, hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless you, America. I am Rich Valdez.